With the arrival of the frost here in the UK and in Zone 8, it is absolutely time to be looking after things like our dahlias. Now, dahlias do not like frost, and if we're thinking about where they originate from, it's not surprising. We're looking at sort of plants which originated in South America, and in fact the Aztecs used to use them and the tubers as an edible. Now, personally, I've never actually eaten any of my dahlia tubers, but I'm assured you can actually eat them. I'm not so sure about that. But because they don't like frost, it actually brings about that question every single year as to whether or not we should pull our tubers up or just leave them in the ground. Now, to a certain extent, it is actually down to personal preference. However, knowing your growing space is really important. If you have really heavy clay soil or you have a really high water table, I would actually suggest pulling the tubers up. However, like me, you have really free draining sandy soil and you know that the water table isn't going to go so high that you're going to get flooding, you can actually leave them in the ground. Now, I've very generously been given a huge lump of tubers for dahlias. Now, these dahlias that I was given have actually been in the ground for around 3 or 4 years, but they're just not wanted anymore. And what's happened, because they were so happy in their growing area, the little tubers have absolutely multiplied and they're massive. Now, what you can do with these tubers, very similar to something like, say, rhubarb or even peonies, is you can divide them. So what I've done with that is I have divided it, I've split it up, and then I need to store it. So if you are digging up your tubers, make sure that they are dry, wrap them in newspaper, put them somewhere safe, dark and dry, so that around sort of March, April time next year, check them out, have a look. If there's any which are rotten, discard them. However, if they have some good eyes on them, you can plant them out. And actually by dividing them, you end up with even more dahlia plants, which is always a bonus. Now, if you are leaving them in the ground, you do need to be cutting them back. So all I'm going to do with these is around sort of 2 to 3 inches. I'm going to leave them above the ground. Now, this isn't because this is where they are going to grow next year. This is more for me as a gardener, so that I know exactly where my tubers actually are. And it also gives me a chance, by clearing them away, to actually just clear any weeds which may be competing for nutrients in the soil around them. What I'm going to do next, because they don't like frost, is I do need to mulch. And again, there's a few things you can do with this one. I'm going to get some nice peat-free compost, and I'm going to surround all these crowns, not over the top of these stalks, because I need to see where my plants actually are. And then around sort of March, April time next year, I'm then going to do an added bonus layer of wood chip. Now, the wood chip is going to do a couple of things. It's going to add an extra bonus layer of protection for any late sustained frost that we may have around that time. But also, because snails and slugs particularly like dahlias, it stops them getting across your little tender plants as they start to grow. And it means that you are adding another layer of protection. So dahlias, absolutely the time to be getting them sorted, getting them out the ground, or just cutting them down and mulching. And then next year, we should have a beautiful patch of dahlias again. I've just got a few more to do.